So good evening. I'd like to welcome Kathy O'Donnell-Buston from the North Reading SEPAC, who's going to really enlighten us and talk to us about Google Docs. So welcome and thank you for stepping up to teach tonight.
You're very welcome. And I want to point out that I learned everything pretty much from my daughter, who was a teenager. So you might have a consultant in your own house or maybe a niece or nephew. Well, anyway, so you should see in the chat window a link. And let's see if I can just, I don't know what that is. It's hard, you know, when you're presenting because you can't, it's hard to find your screens anyway. But what I want you to do is click on that link and it should open up to this page right here. Let me see some nods if you see it.
It's working for me.
Okay. So now what we're going to do you see this menu bar here and any of these? If you don't see the menu bar, press the escape button. Okay, does everybody see a escape button? Good. So then you're going to do file, save as, no, download, and you can pick Microsoft Word, and then you're all going to have a copy of this document on your local machine. And this is how we do collaboration, okay? Which is really awesome. What is collaboration? Collaboration means more than one person can be editing a document at the same time. Now, I believe this is, well, this, do you see the little bird in the corner? That's me. I picked that icon. These are other people. I think the reason why you're these, Google just assigns you, if I just send out a link, then you show up as anonymous. But in any case, look, more than one person can be, see, Leslie, I don't know why she shows up, but anyway, it looks like a lot of you guys are clicking on here. So you can imagine that we could be reviewing our dreaded bylaws together, and someone could say, you can even say here, well, actually there's a chat. Let's see, where's the chat? The chat is, the terrible thing about this interface is that there's so many things to look at that you forget where things are. Let me look at this, see where that was. I mean, I especially looked it up ahead of time. Well, chat. Let's try that. Last edit, total of 14 viewers. Well, if I see the chat in a little bit, we'll look at it. But even if you don't have the chat, sometimes I'm going to go in from, well, actually, I've had discussions with people. So let's see, where am I? I'm going to be here. Okay. Hi, this is Kathy. Okay. So you can type in notes. All right. Well, that's a trivial way. There is a chat button so that you can not mess up your document. Now, the best thing about this, the absolute best thing, file, email. Okay. You finished a draft and you want to tell everybody, review the draft. Okay. You can email your collaborators. Now, actually, this whole thing works. Well, before I go farther, I have too much content to cover today. Okay. But you all have the document and you can read it at your leisure. Now, just to say, you know how each thing is easy, but when you mash them all together, it gets a little harder, right? Like if you are packing to move out of your house, loading one box is easy. Loading your whole house without error is hard. Or if you're doing you're putting together IKEA furniture, one screw is easy. Multiple screws, you know, there's a lot of opportunity for, instead of doing like this, you do like that or something, you know, and you're all messed up. So, and there's YouTube tutorials for all of this. So, and also I want to tell you one other thing. The Google apps are free. It's not because Google wanted to be nice to you. They wanted to kill Microsoft. So they're going to give their services for free, and then you can upload, you can pay more rather to upgrade your services. Okay. So if you feel uncomfortable, it is not you. All right. So you do the same thing that you would do if you were moving and stuff was, you know, you ran out of the red magic marker, which was supposed to go to the kitchen, and you accidentally wrote it in black magic marker and the stuff is not there. So what do? You say some bad words, as many as it takes, and then you try and figure out where you went wrong. And then eventually, hopefully 1 to 2 weeks later, well, you got your stuff. But no, so, don't be a quitter. Don't give up. You can do this. And if you feel like it's hard, well, it's as hard as playing bridge or, getting your driver's license or buying a house. There's opportunities for error, but it's not beyond your capability. Okay. Especially since you're smart CPAC leaders. All right. Blah, blah, blah.
Can I ask
Yes,
a
sure.
stupid question? So do you have to have a Gmail address to create a Google Doc, or?
Everything is based on sharing. Okay.
So if you shared it with somebody who's.
Well, let me give the whole spiel. Actually, I have it. Oh, I do have it. Like, this is under key concepts. Okay. Yes. See, I know where it is. And by the time you guys read it, it'll be terrible. So I'll probably just say it, but it's in here.
Okay.
Yes. Many Google apps can be used by people who don't yet have a Google account, but there are some restrictions. So, one other thing I want to tell you is that Google Documents reside in the cloud. Do you know what in the cloud is? It means a data farm. Could be in your state or some other state. Now, Google's in charge of knowing where your data is. All you have to have is link and log on, and Google will store it out there and give it back to you when you want to work on it. If you want to, you can download it so you have a local copy. It's pretty safe, because if it wasn't safe, nobody would use their services. I think it's more safe than if you were using like your local retailer, like Walmart or Kohl's. Those interfaces are where the hackers are spending their time trying to figure everything out, not on the Google services. Okay, so it's pretty safe. So, right. So, but see, the goodness of having it not on your machine, but out in the cloud is that we all how long did it take us to share the same document? It was like 2 seconds. And you can pass the link around as many as you want. So now let me stop talking and show you. How do I do this thing share? Okay. This is a word processing app. There's also like spreadsheet app and a publisher presentation app, but they're all pretty much the same. You do file, share with others. Now, this is, I think they call it a dialogue, right? The name of the document is this. I'm the owner. I gave my other user ID editor access. I can take it back if I want. And the 3 kinds you have are viewer, commenter, and editor. Oh, and I can also transfer ownership. It's amazing. Yeah, remove access. Okay. So, oops, sorry about that. So I can just put in somebody else's email. Here we go. Okay. And then you get the opportunity to notify them and the message. So this is one way of sharing, explicitly typing in a user ID. Okay. The other way is you can do anyone with a link, commenter. This is the way I put it into the chat so that you were all able to comment. If you put view, I think they can't even download it. I'm not exactly sure, but you can look at it. Commenter, you can make comments, but not really mess with you can't make something that's permanent. And then editor, they can do everything, including deleting it. Okay. So that's your share. So people that I explicitly by user ID gave them access, they are your collaborators, right? So file, email, collaborators, okay? I recommend you always send yourself a copy, editor, commenters. This is the doc, please review this doc by July 4th. Okay. So can you see how good this will be for your, working together? You can have your email list, and, let's suppose there's a presentation and my laptop dies. If I have shared it with somebody else, I can get the document from, they can go up and click on it and I'm saved. Okay. All right. The next thing I want to talk about is, I will just mention this. What we were just looking at, actually, this whole thing here is Google Docs, which is word processing. Okay. And I mentioned explicitly Microsoft. So word processing is what you do. Microsoft Word is their name for it. And Google Docs is Google's name for it. We have spreadsheet, we have Excel and Google Sheets, email, Microsoft is Outlook, and you have Gmail, Calendar, Outlook, Google Calendar, and Google Contacts. Meetings, you can do meetings, and it's free, but it's limited to 1 hour and only 100 meeting attendees. And also, have you seen those little blips come up that say admit one, or somebody wants to be admitted? Has anybody seen that? Yeah. So if you don't have a Gmail account and you have a presentation, you have to admit them in, and then they can listen. So there's little tiny restrictions. They have cloud-based storage. Okay, we talked about that. It means it's not on your local machine unless you download it. It's someplace else, but you can get it anytime you want. Microsoft has OneDrive, and Google has something called Google Drive. And do you know what? You get tons of storage. You get, each Google account gets 15 gigabytes of storage, which is shared across Gmail, Google Drive, and Google Photos. Imagine that. Google's going to do all that for you. They really want to beat Microsoft, and they're hoping that you will go up to freemium. Okay. So we have Google Drive, Google Slides, and Google Forms. All right. So we talked about the kinds of documents. Now, what you need to do to make this work for you is you have to know where to get your free Google account. And you just click here, and it's really easy. And everybody in your SEPAC, can do it too. A lot of people don't like having two email user IDs, but definitely everybody in the SEPAC membership ought to strongly consider it. Now, start using your new Google account. I mean, would you like to know how? Well, I'm just going to go over the topics. All right. And then I'll go into detail. How to start using your new Google account. You can run a virtual meeting using Google Meet. This is free, not like Zoom or some of those other things. I'm just going to mention in passing, use bit.ly.com to shorten links. For example, in a survey. Did you all notice when you clicked how long that link was? Can you imagine trying to type that in by hand? Like, somebody took a screenshot and sent it to you. Say, hey, type in this link and you can have it. Bit.ly will shorten the link to like 16 characters so that a human being has a chance of typing it in properly. Google Drive is storage and an app for organizing documents and files. And by the way, I hate it, but it's free and it's powerful. So just remember to say your bad words and you'll be fine. You can send out a survey, and we went over the sharing the integrated email and other built-in collaboration tools. There's chat. As soon as I find it, I want to find it. I really
Someone said it's the think icon. I don't know what the think icon is.
Maybe they can. And there's so many stupid little, no, that's add comment. There's so many little, they actually are putting more information on here than it's, this thing is a terrible thing. I took off the menus lots of times. Oh, and I think this will put them back in. Yeah. So, like there's all these little things waiting for you to click on them, but just say your bad words and keep going. Oh, what's this? No. What's this? No. All right. I got distracted. So back to where we were going. We went through the whole list, send out a survey. Oh, yes. Sharing, integrated email, and other built-in collaboration tools. So you saw how we went over very quickly how to share. We went over how the email is integrated, like that. There's share. Oh, there's also version history. So if you are working along and, oh, I want to go back to the bylaws 3 revisions ago, you're all set. And you can also work offline, but I'm not so comfortable with that because I always get out of sync. And then how to make a distribution list using Google Contacts. I personally like the Microsoft suite of tools. I consider that the gold standard, but at my work right now, Google is free. Our whole company uses free Google apps. So it was hard for me to find out how to do a distribution list using Google Contacts. All right, so on your own time, you can read all of this and give it a try. And if it doesn't make sense, you can do a YouTube tutorial and you can send me email and I might answer it. But anyway, all right. Let's first look at how to start using your new Google account. All right. Well, let's go look over here first. Okay, here's Google. Here is the, actually, I should start it like this. So I'm going to go down a little bit. Okay. Now, what you want to do is type in google.com. All right. This is what you get when you type google.com. And usually you would have to, I don't want to do it on this one because if I log in, I will, well, let's just go on. Okay, so I could sign out and log in. All right, so the first thing you do is you go to google.com. The second thing that you do is you click on your little picture. It could just be one of those heads, right? The shadow heads, whatever it is, you click on it. And after you log in, you're going to see Gmail. That's the Google Gmail. And this is actually called a hamburger icon. It's sort of like a sandwich, the top row. Okay. If you click on this, then you can click on, okay, this way is Gmail and this way is Google Drive. Okay. And then this is obviously pointing to my private drive. Then in additional, what else can you do? Google Maps, Meet, Google Meet. Oh, here's a chat. Contacts, Google Calendar. So the answer, so let's go look back in the document and I will show you how I wrote that up, if I can find that document. There it is. Okay. So how to start using your 200%. Okay. Oh, let's try this. All right. So click on the icon and sign in. Okay. Enter google.com and you're going to see this line here. 3, click on the hamburger icon. All right. And this is the hamburger icon. This is why it has that name. It looks kind of like a hamburger. And that's a fancy one. Okay. Does anybody have any, I hope you don't have any questions about how to get to the Gmail and how to get to the complete set of Google services. Okay.
And I found out how to find the chat by Googling it.
Oh,
So
yes.
you go up to the little icon by the avatars that says +12, click on it, and at the bottom it says join chat.
Wow. Well, I
And
didn't
on
want
the bottom, the little chat box will open and you can
at the
chat.
very bottom. Let's see.
In your bottom right, there says the blue box that says type chat.
Okay, I don't see it because there's heads there, but I'm going to just move the, oops. Well, okay, that was nothing. It didn't do anything. There it is. Type here to chat. So, there it is. I mean, is that collaboration or what? I think that's pretty amazing. What other word processing software do you use that gives you chats? All right. So we talked about where to get your Google account. We talked about how to start using it. How am I doing for time, Leslie? Probably
Yeah.
not so good.
Well,
Yeah.
it's 30. I'll give you about another 10 minutes. Maybe we should think about, ask if anyone has any questions, if they use Google Docs, you know,
Right.
where.
Some people might have. Generally, when I do a document, I do it like the easiest way. There's lots of times there's 10 different ways to do it. The easiest way with the least software, that's what I usually pick. So we see this here where I put the footer. That's an example. I did want to highlight that. The Google interface is hard to use. Actually, we could look at the Google Drive interface because I hate that. But you know, it's sometimes hard to use, but you could just, like Leslie did, type into a Google, into a search engine, you know, how Google Doc, because that's word processing. How do you put in a footer, and you'll get it. All right. Well, what we did say is we're going to give a break for questions if anybody wants to ask any questions at this time.
So can you cut and paste like a picture there? Like if you wanted to put your SEPAC logo on and create a flyer?
I
Or do you
do it
have
all
to
the
upload
time.
them?
I do it all the time.
Just do it all the time.
All
So
the
I
time.
think you're suggesting that people just open a blank document and start playing with it and trying sharing it with other people in their SEPAC
Well,
to see
actually,
how it works.
what I should probably do is I'll put in the link. I have a document on how to publicize. And to publicize correctly, there's an application called, or there's a concept called screenshot. So we know there's email, and Microsoft's email is called Outlook, and Google's email is called Gmail. Okay, you want to know what is the thing. Spreadsheet is the thing. Excel is Microsoft's spreadsheet, and Google Sheets is Google. Okay, so screenshot is a thing. Now, if you have Microsoft, if you have a Windows machine, then you need to Google what is the screenshot for Windows. And I would say, what is the screenshot for Macintosh, which is what I'm using. So what I could do is I can go like this. That's exactly, you see these little pictures in here? That's how I did it. So this is how I take a screenshot. And so I just capture that. And then wherever I want to put it, I would say insert image, upload from computer. And this is my download folder. This is the one I just took. And there it is. You see, it's the same thing because I just, and then I'm going to remove that. Let's see. Let's see if I can just delete it. There we go. Did I get it out? I did.
Yep.
So yes, you absolutely can do that. And it's very powerful. In fact, a lot of times what I do when I make my posts for, I'm going to finish this sentence, then I'm going to go get the link to my publicity folder, which has a lot of stuff in it. Again, trying to do it the simplest way possible. But what I do a lot of times is I make a Microsoft Word flyer. I take a picture of the flyer and I post it to Facebook, and I can post it to Instagram. So yeah, you can have your cake and do it too. Now, note when you take your flyer and you make your screenshot, if you have a link on there, you know, nobody's going to be able to click it because it's a screenshot, but it's, you know, very good for publicity. All right, now I'm going to go, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to go get the link to my publicity folder, and I will give you all viewer access to that. Okay. So let me go find where that is. I do have it. It's a different.
So it sounds like there's a couple of people here who do this with their SEPAC. So Weymouth does Google Docs. So you probably can go onto some of the chats and just say, hey, I need help with Google Docs. And if Kathy's not available, somebody else can. Connie, you have your hand raised. You can.
Yeah, I have less of a question than a suggestion. So we use Google Docs almost exclusively in Brookline. Do not use this if you are presenting in a live format. So what happened was my co-chair and I had a Google Doc that we had written out our public comment that we were giving to school committee. And this was in the days of the remote, and we were both on a computer and we in different houses. We both had the Google Doc open and we were trying to, like, I would read part and she would read part, but because we were in the same document, when one of us scrolled, it moved it for the other. And so we kept losing our place. It was like kind of funny after a while because we kept losing our place. It turned out to be like one of the two kids, like two dogs, like playing, like fighting over a rope or something like that. So if that's the case, if you're sharing it live, download it to a Word doc and save it to your computer. And that way you're not in the same like platform. And the same thing, be careful that you're not overriding what somebody else wrote, right? Because somebody else could have put in comments, and if you delete those, they're going to go away. You're going to have to use like your version, you're restoring your version or whatever. So that's just my 2 cents, but I like it, but I agree with Kathy, like there's a lot of bad words involved.
And I'm seeing lots in the chat. So it looks like there are some people who use it for lots of different things. They use it as a website in Medfield. They use Google Docs for everything, including our website. So you upload Google Docs to your website?
There's a Google app called Google Sites, and there's all kinds of, I aspire to get in that. My daughter went back to college and I couldn't.
You need more help. Tech support, tech support. So it's hard because a lot of us don't maybe do this in their work on a day-to-day basis. So the other thing to do is to find somebody within your SEPAC circle who's really good with this kind of an application and can be your tech person on Google Docs, just the same way somebody would be administrating your Facebook page. I think that's, you know, playing to everyone's different strengths. I'm definitely feeling a lot more confident to play with these documents, to open things up, try things, share it with somebody, go back and forth, be a little creative. And when you get stuck, Google it and see what the answer is of how to do it.
I wonder if Medfield can do a session on how their website works. I'd love to go to that.
Okay, so we're going to keep this learning going forward. Tonight is just, you know, an introduction to a tool that seems to be used by SEPACs. And I just really want to thank you for, number one, sharing all of your work with us. I mean, that is priceless, and just really thank you so much. Any other questions, people? We've got the expert in the room. No. Okay, so I guess we're going to move on. And even though I have a thunder and lightning storm, it's I've held power. So our last topic of the evening is meeting with the district. And Shannon Mwesa, did I pronounce your last name correctly? Mwesa from Duxbury? Yes?
That's fine.
Okay. Is here to help us. And this is one of the duties under the SEPAC that you meet regularly with the district. So it's something we need to learn how to do productively. It was also when I did my Visions of Community conference session, it was the one theme that kept coming out around the topic of family engagement and working together as a collaborative group, is that by meeting together, you built the relationships that you needed to rely on ultimately when things got tough. So I'm going to spotlight you so your people can look at it. No, don't do it.
No, don't do that. You don't need to.
Okay, I don't need you to do that. Okay, so just help us start a conversation about meeting with the district.
Okay, yeah, and that was, hi, everybody. I just want to let you know I'm not officially on the board anymore. I'm still an active member of SEPAC, and I've been on the board for many years, and was also a member of the school committee in Duxbury for 6 years. So I have a couple of different layers of perspective on this.
One moment, please.
So so I don't have slides tonight. I really did, as Leslie said, I just wanted to start a conversation. I think this topic can be a tough one, depending on where your district is and where the SEPAC is. And I've seen in my, I think I've been in Duxbury's SEPAC now for 12 years, different superintendents, different special education administrators, and different SEPAC members. And it has, it evolves. It's up, down, all around. And I think, so I'd really love to, just have a conversation about it. I'll just say we have a few different ways of meeting with the district. I think it's important to highlight. I think, to Leslie's point, the most important thing is building the relationships. And that can be hard, right? If you have a CPAC that's, upset about things, it can be hard to kind of, put that aside and work on building the relationships. But I think having been on kind of both sides, being kind of more of a district person versus a parent person, it's super important to try to do that. But there are different ways of communicating with the district. And Leslie, I don't know if this is kind of going outside of scope, because I think you have a school committee one, right? But like the school committees typically have a liaison to the CPAC. So that's one point of entry. We have a liaison to the CPAC specifically from the district. Sometimes it's not the director, sometimes it's somebody else, but there's always somebody who attends all the CPAC meetings. So that's another point of communication. And then what we've done is typically two, because we've always been under the open meeting law, 2 people from the board would be the ones who would go and meet with the administrator, on a monthly basis or a bi-weekly basis, depending on what's happening. We also identified, I'm sure you guys all do this, we also have like liaisons for each school. So those people would also meet with the, the principal and the school level administrator. That's a lot to fit in. So it didn't always happen, but that was kind of the goal, to just try and build those relationships so that you can, as I said, when you get to the difficult conversations, you have some trust built and you can have those conversations. But it's not always easy. And the people, especially, I don't know if you guys have this experience, but our CPAC in Duxbury has, the membership, there's a lot of rotation of members depending on what's going on in the parents' lives, and then depending on what's going on in school. And we've had are we going on our 4th special administrator in something like 6 years. And we're on our 3rd superintendent in maybe 5 or 6 years as well. So there's been a lot of turnover on the school side, and that makes this whole thing really difficult, to be honest, because you don't have time to build the relationships before an emergency happens. So I don't know if you guys want me to give you an example from Duxbury about how we've tried to work through things, or if anybody else kind of wants to speak up, if anyone has something that they're working through right now that you want to talk through about how to approach things. I think we've had one recent learning in terms of, trying to really take some of in my perspective, everyone is a lot of it's personal perspective, but the really difficult conversations to start them in these quiet, these more personal meetings, so that, there aren't any surprises in a public meeting. I think that can really backfire on both sides. I think that has been something that we've learned by experience.
I have yes, I have an example also of what not to do, which I learned by experience. So there was an incident in a classroom, and some of the CPAC board was upset about it, and it came to me, or they were saying, so can we send a letter out about this? And I said, to the superintendent, okay, because they were and the administrators and the school board. I said, yeah, we can send a letter out. So, and it was all done kind of in a rush because there was a time thingy, and that was absolutely not the way to go. If you school boards that do it the right way, they don't do anything until they've talked to everybody. And the person telling me, I think, had talked to the family, but I did not talk to the family. I wasn't sure how many people had talked to the family, and actually, did the family even want us to write such a letter, right? So, if you're going to do such a thing like that, you have to practically run your own investigation agency, and CPACs really don't want to be involved in that. The superintendent said to me afterwards, if you had a question, why didn't you come to me directly? And, everybody wanted to get it out before, I can't remember whether there was a hiring meeting or something like that, but, I got to get it done right away. Well, no, you don't. And, the thing to do is, if you have if the administration, okay, in my family, if I had dirty laundry, I would want people to come to me directly first and give me an opportunity to be informed as to what it was, and say, well, no,
I think that goes to building that trust, so
right.
that if you bring it to the people and it's their job to investigate, fix it, and get back to you, then it happens probably a lot quicker than before you take it public.
Right.
And I think that's the problem, and that's the issue.
Right.
And that's why meeting regularly, you see, things can come up, you have that relationship, and when there is something that you think is much more urgent, when you place that phone call, they will take that phone call.
You would have taken it anyway. Well, it's just like, if you haven't talked to the person personally, you don't, and you haven't done your 5 weeks of investigation to talk to everybody and built your reconstituted who did what and when. If you haven't done all that work, then you can have opinions, but you're probably not ready to send a letter to anybody. And so and if you do have an administration, I'm lucky to have it, that actually wants to work with us. They're like, well, I thought we were partners. How come you didn't come to us first? So and actually in our bylaws, when we revise them, I think I'm going to put something in there just to that effect, that we don't have the time to do the investigation. We can definitely address policies issues. Like if there's a policy, actually that issue had to do with a para that wasn't, we thought, it seemed from what the hearsay I heard, the para. So, but we could say,
I would just caution about putting that into the bylaws, because I think it stretches the bylaws in a direction that I want to keep them much more simple, and we'll talk about that on the side. Danielle, you had your hand up, and I want to capture your thoughts too on this. You're mute. You're on mute still, sorry.
Good thing I was muted because Bella was screaming. I think it's important for CPACs to stay true to systematic issues, not individualized issues. I think that's one issue that CPACs have difficulty when people that don't understand get involved. But I just wanted to touch base on something in the chat that says, how do you balance letting parents talk freely at meeting versus including district officials? We, for everybody to know too, I have taken my CPAC hat off. I've filled a vacancy on school committee. So I did have to step away from my CPAC role, but I am
Legally you don't, just saying.
We should talk offline, Leslie, that it was quite a to-do. But anyways, we leave the last half an hour to 15 minutes of our meetings only for parents. That's when employees of Weymouth Public Schools has to leave. And that includes parents, because we have had issues with confidentiality and things coming out. So we do ask that district leaders leave. We have a great relationship with our district leaders. We just had an event today that they both showed up to. But I think it's that understanding of, we want to be a safe place for our families first. And I think that is really important, that we let people know immediately, if you have an issue, you will be heard. The last 15 minutes will just be for you.
Yeah. And we also, similarly, we will sometimes do that in a formal meeting, and we also rotate. So 1 month will be a business meeting, one month will be a parents' night only. And we'll rotate that. So there's a couple of different ways that you can get to that question from Megan.
And I do think even though our district leaders show up to a lot of our events, I think that shows that they are willing to work with us, and that kind of gives us a little bit more respect. Look at they're coming in on their summer days to an event that barely anybody showed up to, and they're respecting their CPAC. That I think that goes a long way too.
Absolutely. It absolutely does. I want to follow up on one other thing that Kathy had said. No, actually, Danielle, I think it was you. And I think this is something that I've seen kind of shifting in the last few years. And I don't know if it's just kind of part of a shift of, what's going on in the world. But, I've always felt like CPAC is not my place as an individual parent. My role on CPAC is not for my personal issues. It's to address what can we do for the school as a whole, for all kids in special education, for everybody. And I feel like that's been a little hard to keep that kind of overarching perspective over the last several years. I was on school committee during the pandemic, and that was really fun, with heavy sarcasm there. So I think that's right on point, Danielle. I think that's a really, really excellent point to make, that, we're here for the system and the policies, to what Kathy said. In my past, if I got individual, I just try to give them, best practices in terms of how they can address it directly with the school if it was a single parent, right? Or raise it with a non-identifiable context of, we're hearing stuff about, how reading instruction is going in the lower education, in the lower elementary schools. Could you come, could somebody come present at a CPAC meeting about the method of instruction, right? So we try to approach it from that perspective.
I wanted to follow up on that, like there was a specific issue about paraprofessionals, which we did not touch, but then we can say, hey, what kind of training do paraprofessionals get? And is there a mentoring system? And, if they have a problem, who would they go to? And so that would be more the policy.
Yeah, but in the same way, Danielle, that, your district folks are showing the CPAC respect by coming to your events, right? Also kind of, nodding head to their, nod of the head to hat, excuse me. And there's always difference of opinions, right? But showing some respect for the fact that they are the educational professionals. Theirs is not the only voice in the room. We each have a different role, and we each come to it with different things. But I think showing respect, just as an individual person, right, is an important part of that. And sometimes when things are passionate, we can lose sight of that. And I think, CPAC especially, it's also personal to all of us. We're doing it usually from, the depths of our heart, is why we're spending all our time on this stuff. So it can be very hard.
There's a comment in the chat. Someone says, I'm new to CPAC and rebuilding ours. What issue would be like an emergency issue? And I could just think of one time when a speech and language person just left the district. And of course, there were no services because that person's whole schedule was kind of abrupt, and there was no communication from the district. And then you kind of heard the rumors, and then you heard the thing. And that to me was like, it was great for the CPAC to kind of step right in and say, we're hearing about this. How can we work together to communicate your plan of what you're going to do? So that was like an emergency issue, in a sense of like, kids aren't getting services. We know that there's an issue. And the best thing is to be really upfront about it. And we as a CPAC can get the word out. We have the conduit, we have the Facebook, we're better than you. I mean, or we could at least read your message and see if it's going to answer all the questions too. So you can be a proofreader. So that's, there's ways that the CPAC can kind of come forward and meet with the district and just say, I want to come in and help you with this issue. Things happen, and why don't we work together to resolve it? I think that's probably the best.
Yeah, I love that idea.
Were you in Weymouth? Were you in Weymouth, Leslie? Because that exact situation happened to us.
I've heard a lot over the last almost 13 years. So I picked a very calm issue. There's been others.
And I think also if you're regularly meeting with them, things that might be emergencies wouldn't be emergencies because you already have the opportunity to discuss, right? Like we had a situation a few years ago where, you know, we found out last minute that the budget was going to have a severe, you know, significant impact on special education. And so that became an emergency because we hadn't, you know, been having regular meetings and people hadn't been updated. So you couldn't have those discussions as a regular course of business. So I think having the regular meetings helps avoid emergencies. And then the relationships are there if it does happen.
Connie, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I already talked, so I want to give, if anybody else has a
Oh.
question, you can pass me and get to anybody else if there's.
No?
Um,
Sure.
I just have a question I'd like to hear from the group, because this has happened in two separate settings. So I was the chair of my school district CPAC. I stepped away from that because my out of district program was needing some help. And so in both settings, in those smaller, more intimate meetings, which I agree are like so necessary for both for relationship building and for just like kind of like airing the dirty laundry in private, you know, before you go public with it. In both settings, like our school committee liaison and or a member of our board of directors really wanted to sit in on those, every one of them. And so that's good and bad, right? Because it's great that they want to be engaged and they want to be involved, but there's a power dynamic there that I did feel like it made it sometimes more difficult to manage a conversation. And there were sometimes issues I wasn't ready to escalate to the school committee yet. So I'm just wondering, has anybody else encountered that? How did you handle it? You know, I definitely learned over time. Do you know what I mean? I made my mistakes at the beginning and learned, but like what do other people think? And especially Shannon, you're both, right? And Danielle,
Yeah.
you're both. So, yeah.
I've seen it. We've seen that. And we've tried to address it directly with the individual who wanted to join the meeting, who wasn't particularly appropriate. So we try to have a one-on-one conversation and try and explain, you know, by you being in the room, it's going to change the conversation. It's going to change what people are willing to talk about. And this is our role, and this is not your role. And sometimes it was I'm going to be there. And then you just went back to the other person and tried to explain it to them. And then other times they would kind of back off depending on the situation. But it's hard. And again, it goes to the relationships, right? Like if you built a relationship of trust, you can kind of say, you know, we talk regularly, you'll get an update. We really need to encourage the conversation right now. You know, please be patient. You know, this will come to you at the right time. You know, and if you have that relationship, then they'll trust you, right? But it's hard. Has anybody else had this?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that the trust piece is like the biggest piece. And I think when we're in a climate that isn't so great. So in our situation, we were in a climate, we did not have a teacher contract. Staffing was really, really poor at the time. I think the conversation that we had to have with this particular employee was, listen, we have to hold on to the trust that we have with the families. Because also Kim and I worked very, very hard to get that trust back. That, you know, that previous to our leadership, CPAC was not trusted. They were not reached out to. They were not used as a resource. So we worked really hard to get that. So I think, and that conversation was really difficult to have with that person. And she had to be told, you know, look at it from your parent hat, not your district employee hat. Like, look at it from a parent coming in at a level 10, not really hearing what's going on, just saying, I'm mad at the district. I don't want someone from the district hearing about my problem right now. It's a tough conversation, but when you wear both hats, you have to realize that that's going to come up, that people are not going to trust you when there is major issues going on.
Lorraine, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I'm now in Wellesley, but I was previously in Framingham, Wellesley, you know. But in Framingham, and this is where most of my, I guess, knowledge comes from, and my background with the CPAC for a couple of years from 2019 forward was literally we started off, and our co-chair, the very first one that we had, which we were rebuilding the CPAC again. Johanna, she was great, and she had a really good relationship because of her own child struggles. And she with like the director and everything, with Laura and Alfonso, like at the Framingham district for special education, which is perfect. And she knew a lot more than me, for example, that just came in to special education and services. So because of her relationship, not only with like Laura and Alfonso, her relationship with the issues that were going on in a particular school at the time, and with the parents in that school that also were struggling because of the lack of services, because of the lack of continuation across the board for everyone, and getting equal services that were supposed to be happening. She already knew what was going on. So she had the role of like the CPAC hat, or like, a chair, and saying this needs to be addressed immediately. And then also the fact of I'm a mom that's struggling with my child not getting those services yet. I'm concerned about it, but that's not the reason that I'm making this an issue, is because it's not just me. There's multiple families that are going through this. And Johanna herself had already, like, for example, gone to the school, met with teachers, did multiple meetings. So when she approached it, she herself, and she was like the voice of the parents there. And she wasn't even the liaison. That was right before, sorry, my daughter, right before we actually became in the board, when it all started. But right before that, she had already tried those steps. And so when she addressed it to Laura and Alfonso, like at the office, they literally were just like, we're open to it, talk to us, we're receptive, let's communicate. Just give us a general sort of idea of what's going on, not specific to your child, because that would be more school-based directly, like the issues that may need to be addressed. But in general, what's the issues with the school? Is it that the school isn't addressing them, the administrators? Is it like the principals? Is it who's doing what, like what's lacking? And that was the really good basis for our relationship that we started, because that was the number one issue that we started with. And then when other people came from other schools or from other needs, like Johanna's really good with like ASD stuff, and that's her focus. Me is more like, my kids have dyslexia and ADHD and stuff like that, but like side notes compared to like what she was really doing at Dunning and stuff. So like, because of her relationship that she built with that one situation for all that school, literally like the whole special education department in that school, we were able to then go and say, hey, we don't want to be specific about anything. What would you suggest in this situation? A parent is telling this without telling them any specifics that can identify that specific individual at the time. Should we address this higher to you and make it formal? Should we talk to who in that school? Like what should we do? And then because of that relationship, like I said, it was built. That's how we were able to then, relay the information and follow the proper procedures, in the sense of giving the school adequate time and notifications and communication from not only the parent that they tried doing it themselves, then it was us. Then we'd go ahead and bring it up to them. And if they had to go, it would go to, board meetings and whatnot.
You know what I love is your demonstration of trust by asking a question of like how to approach this, and saying, not coming in and saying, I know everything. It was, you trusted them and you asked a question, and you trusted that the answer would be appropriate. I just think that modeling that that's a really great idea. I like that.
Yeah, and leaving
and
it
I'm not
open.
good at that, because it takes some time to calm yourself enough to be open enough to ask a question, but it's a great strategy. So everybody else try it and see how we do. Now, I sometimes it just takes a different approach. It also depends on the people. So in my tenure as a parent, I went through 5 special ed administrators, and I dealt with 5 different people, 5 different personalities, and some I got along with and some I didn't, but you had to work with them. And so I can't imagine your district in Duxbury going through that much change and turmoil in, an administrative level in 5 years. It's difficult. It's difficult for the staff that are trying to implement programming without that direction. I know the Boston Public Schools has been reeling because they've had such turnover in their administration. So it happens, and it's happening more and more. So the one thing that came out of my family engagement session at VOC was Kathleen Amaral in Dartmouth, when a new special ed administrator came in, her first approach was, welcome, how can I help you learn about the district? And the administrator, I apologize because I can't remember her name, was like, she said that's what started the relationship. It was started on a positive note. It was started without any issue in front of us, and we had a chance to have a conversation, and the SEPAC could share some history, or at least part of that history that she needed to know. And that's something I think we all can do, is when somebody new comes in, is start the relationship, if you can, with a positive interaction, relationship building, and then the next day you hit them up with, oh, and I need you to help me with this. But that was a really interesting thing to hear, that her reaction was, I'm comfortable here because they're welcoming me.
Great.
Anyone else?
Just to add on to what you were just saying, Leslie, is those relationships are so important to bond early. In our case, we have also gone through the many special ed administrators, and they're coming in, the new ones are coming in to, could be a disaster, right? We have two that have been in our district for a long time, so we didn't have to form that relationship. We already had it, which was nice from a different avenue, but also, showing up to their meetings and showing that you are committed to the district goes a long way too. Showing up to school committee meetings, going to budget meetings, volunteering for events, getting to our schools. We have a very large district. We have, 8 primary schools. Doing things district wide versus one specific school. It just, that relationship builds with that, because they see like, all right, they're really serious about changing systematic issues and really supporting us and what we can get done to change and do better. Everybody can always do better. There's always somebody that can do something better than you. It's collaborative work that makes that change happen. And I think that really showing your commitment to the district really goes a long way too.
So if there are no other questions, it's a little after 8. I just want to thank Kathy and Shannon so much for, showing up tonight, sharing some of your tips and strategies, because you guys do it on the ground every day. And I'm really thankful to listen to your perspective. And I think we've all been enriched by the conversation. Thanks everyone for joining in. I'm gonna stop the recording.